Recently, we celebrated Janmashtami, which, for those unfamiliar with that exotic term, is Krishna's birthday. It's the name of the celebration that takes place annually in India. The date moves around according to the cycles of the moon, much the same way that Easter varies in the West according to the timing of the moon cycles. So it's not on the same date every year. We chanted to Krishna. We just had a beautiful evening and we told some stories. And Nirmala told a story about her encounter with Krishna, which I will not repeat because you can listen to it in the recording of Janmashtami, which is also posted here on our YouTube channel. But I thought it sparked in me a reminder of two stories of encounters, very unexpected. Her encounter was also unexpected. But in my own life, two encounters with Krishna that stood out for their unexpectedness. And part of what made them unexpected is where they happened. They both happened in the Midwest, one of them in Chicago and one of them in Michigan. And they were many years ago, but they were very striking. And so I thought to just share those today because I still feel the inspiration of the Krishna's birthday celebration and the energy around Krishna. It's a very heartfelt energy, a very loving, very joyful energy. And these stories were just so sweet. So I'll tell the first, I'll go chronologically. This first one happened in, I want to say 1987 or early 1988. I think it was early 1988. And I was on a tour in the Chicago area, organizing showings of Swamiji's oratorio, Christ Lives in the Holy Land, and with churches in the Chicago area as it happened. And since I grew up in the Chicago area, I was able to stay with family generally, not the entire time, but mostly, and was sort of on familiar ground, you might say, except to say that I was going to churches that I had never been to before. You know, I had a directory of churches, long, big, thick, heavy directory. And I was kind of feeling my way along and having some success. I did encounter places that were interested. And this one day, we went to had an appointment with the priest of a Catholic church in the western suburbs of, not suburbs, but the western part of Chicago proper. Not a great neighborhood, but not a terrible one either. But anyway, we went into this large church and we immediately had a nice feeling about it. We prayed a little while before the meeting and then we met with the priest and went into his office. And he was wonderful. We just immediately felt this lovely connection with him somehow, and he with us as well. We were kind of undercover at this point. We were not using the name Ananda. We certainly weren't using the name Swami Kriyananda. That just would have thrown up lots of red flags and, immediately deleted whatever success we hoped to have in most circumstances with most of the churches that we could hope to get this program into. And we just wanted, that's a much longer story, how all that came to be, and I won't go into that now. But during this meeting, there was just such a flow, such a kind of grace that was going on. Somehow it was like we knew this guy. We were on the same wavelength. And one of the really intriguing things is that, and we had felt it even before we went to his office. We chatted a little bit in the church before we went in the sanctuary before we went into his office. is right behind him, so kind of over his head, maybe off to one side slightly, was a picture of Krishna on the wall of a Catholic priest's office in the Chicago area. Now, this just intrigued the dickens out of all of us. I was with two people making these calls and appointments, and we were very intrigued, but we were very circumspect about asking directly. I mean, that's is not, you may expect to see a statue of Mary. You may expect to see a crucifix. There's a lot of things you can expect to see in a Catholic priest's office. A picture of Krishna was not among them, at least on my list. And so anyway, we organized the showing of the program. His showing happened to be, I believe, the very first one in the season. We were booking for the Easter season, the Lent, and then the Easter season. And we went to do the program, and we were setting up the equipment and getting ready. And I believe we were, again, very briefly in his office, just kind of greeting him and so forth. And I thought, okay, well, now we're going to do the program. So now I'm allowed to ask, and they're not going to cancel out on us now. So I said, who is that on the wall? I mean, I knew it was Krishna, or I was at least pretty confident that it was, because I sort of knew the symbolism. He said, oh, it's Krishna. And I said, well, how does Krishna come to be here? And he said, well, we have the largest Indian population in the Diocese of Chicago, in the large grouping of Catholic churches in the Chicago area. And which didn't entirely answer the question, why would they put Krishna up on the wall? But it just was very touching to me, because it was like his blessing was on it. That was the first program that we did. We struggled a little bit with our equipment in that showing, but people loved it. It was very sweet. And so anyway, that was one little instance, an appearance, an apparition of Krishna in my life in a very unexpected way. Chicago is not, now I know that many, many Indians have settled in the Chicago area. Friends of mine spent years there. They know the scene really well, etc. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't move in those circles. Krishna was just like, other than, encountering the Hare Krishna movement, the ISKCON group in America, which developed a very different reputation from the one in India, because they had very aggressive tactics being used in the 1970s to sort of recruit people. I had no connection to Krishna whatsoever until I came to Ananda. So anyway, that was very surprising, but very, very sweet. And the second story happened also in the Midwest. We were on a brief vacation trip with my family to the Lake Michigan area, but in the state of Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, all border Lake Michigan. But we happened to be just around the corner from Chicago, in the southwest corner of Michigan. And my family got it in their minds that we should get a cottage in that area. Just a little house, a little kind of vacation place somewhere near the lake, and just as a place to go in the summertime and, be together. Not that Nirmal and I lived in California. Actually, we had just moved back to California by that point. We had been living in Seattle before that. But anyway, we were not present very often, but we were sort of, encouraging the idea. It sort of was drawing the family back together after we'd been kind of scattered in different directions for quite a while. So anyway, the family went looking for a house. My two sisters, my mom, maybe Nirmala went along on this trip, I'm not sure. But anyway, they came back and they had found a place that was in process of being renovated at the time. So there was the builder, the carpenter contractor fellow was working on the place, getting it fixed up, cleaned up. It had been built a long time ago, but he was renovating it. And so we all went over and looked. And it seemed nice. It was on a nice piece of property. And the house itself, he seemed to be doing good work on it. And then I noticed, because there was a main house and then there was a kind of outbuilding, separate building, smaller, but kind of one large bedroom with a kind of a studio affair, sort of a little kitchenette and a little bathroom off to the side. Anyway, on the roof of that particular building had a flat roof, which is in itself a little unusual in the Chicago area for a residential house. And up on the roof, facing out, was a murti, which is a statue of Krishna, in the middle of nowhere. Little town in Michigan, tiny little town in Michigan, and there's Krishna. And I mean, that's, that would be like Krishna showing up on the moon as far as I was concerned. And I looked up at this murti and I said, that's Krishna. And my family didn't really know what to make of that. And 10 or 20 years earlier, I wouldn't have known what to make of it either. I mean, I might as well have been speaking, Swahili or just some completely unknown language, Mandarin Chinese or something of them. But for me, I said, we should get this house. There's a blessing connected with this. And we did. And, the little cottage is still in the family after all these years. And there's just, there was a blessing around that place. The murti was lost or whatever. I don't even know what happened. I never got a close look at the murti. The contractor went back to work. We all left and went away, and then months went by before we actually took possession of the place. And by that point, nobody could seem to find Krishna anymore. But so it's like he just appeared. He just came, and then he was gone. And anyway, so those are my two little stories of encountering Krishna in the most unexpected ways. I'll just finish that story by saying, we did a house blessing, chanting around the house. And even my parents did this. A little, my mom somewhat willingly, my dad a little bit, what is this? But it was just sweet to be able, we chanted, Lord, I am thine, be thou mine. And, that seemed like a chant that everyone could relate to. We're offering ourselves to God. We're asking God to be with us in our consciousness, in our lives. And on some level, that place still retains some of that blessing. Family life is family life, and not everyone's interested in spiritual life, or certainly not in the same ways, which is perfectly fine. But the blessing was there, and I just wanted to share those two stories. They're very sweet and dear to my heart, but I hadn't thought of them in many years until Nirmala told that story. God bless you.